In this video, I'm going to show you how to make a monstera leaf-shaped pillow with this groove in the middle that gives it more of a texture and look of an actual monstera leaf. To make this monstera leaf pillow, you can either draw your own leaf-shaped pattern or purchase a copy of my pattern. If you're using my pattern, make sure you print it at 100% scale and piece them together using the page layout provided. Cut the leaf template out along the solid lines. You can make this pillow using a soft fabric like fleece or flannel for a soft touch, or a medium weight woven like twill or corduroy for a more sturdy decorative pillow. Personally, I think dog blankets are a great material for making pillows like this design. Cut 2 mirrored pieces with the monstera leaf sewing pattern. If you're using fabrics with a nap like fleece or corduroy, meaning a texture that sits in a specific direction, make sure you cut both pieces with the texture going in the same direction. For my pillow, I made sure the pile of the fabric was going from the widest to the most narrow point of the pillow for both fabric pieces. Don't forget to mark out the notches in the pattern so you'll know where to leave an opening for stuffing the pillow later. Use a tracing wheel and tracing paper to mark out the dashed lines and the dotted lines on the right side of the fabric. The dotted lines are the primary vein in the middle, and the dashed lines are the secondary veins. Before you start sewing, make sure you have your machine set up for the fabric type that you're using. In this video, I'm making my pillow with the soft fleece that is actually a dog blanket that got chewed up over time. And this fabric has a slight stretch, so I'm using a stretch needle and a walking foot to help me with my sewing. Start off by sewing decorative zigzag stitches for the secondary veins. Using a small zigzag stitch, sew over the marking for the secondary veins. It doesn't really matter which side you're starting from, but once you reach the end of the line, pivot your work 180 degrees and sew over the zigzag stitches again. Doing the zigzag stitch over the same spot twice makes the decorative stitching more obvious, especially when you're using a regular sewing thread. To secure the stitches when you're done, use a seam ripper to pull all 4 strands of the thread to the wrong side of the fabric. Then, tie them together with a single overhand knot. Do this for all the secondary veins of the leaf, and you can choose to do this for just one fabric piece of the pillow or both. For this pillow that I'm making in this video, I only did it for one of the fabric pieces. Next, place both fabric pieces right sides together and sew all along the cut edge of the fabric. Now, when sewing the leaf splits, you'll have to work slowly and pivot your work as needed. Remember to also leave the opening between the notches for filling the pillow later. Backstitch every time you start and end your stitching so the stitches don't unravel too easily when you're stuffing the pillow later. Before turning the pillow inside out, clip the deep concave curves at the end of the leaf split and clip the pointed ends of the leaf. This helps the curves and the pointed ends of the pillow to turn out nice and neat later. Be careful about not cutting your stitches off by mistake. And now we're ready to turn it right side out. And this is how it looks. This is how we sew the groove for the primary leaf vein for this leaf pillow. Lay your work on the flat surface, making sure that all the seams are turned out. Pin the 2 layers of fabric together so they don't shift as you sew them together in the next step. Now we're going to sew through both layers of the fabric together along the dotted line marking. The monstera pillow is now separated in two halves. It's time to stuff the pillow. If you're making this pillow with a torn up blanket like me, you can cut up the rest of the fabric in smaller squares and fill the pillow up with this material. Cutting the fabric up in small squares allows the pillow to be filled more evenly. Avoid the temptation of filling the pillow up with larger pieces of fabric because it is hard to fill up those little small and tight corners with a large piece of fabric, and you're more likely to end up with awkward bulging at different spots when you use a larger piece of fabric. Because fleece scraps are much denser than polyester filling, filling up the entire pillow with just fleece scraps will result in a much sturdier and heavy pillow. So really experiment with the type of texture that you like. For me, for this version of the monstera leaf pillow, I actually used a mixture of fleece scraps and polyester filling. So, stuff both halves of the monstera pillow with your choice of stuffing through the openings in the pillow. And when you are almost done, start sewing the openings closed by hand. I like to use the ladder stitch for a clean, seamless finish. To do this, start off by inserting the needle from the inside of one end of the opening. This allows the knot in your thread to be hidden inside the pillow. Continue stitching with a 3/8 inch seam allowance, making each stitch about a 1/4 inch wide. If you want a pillow that is as tightly stuffed as possible, then you need to continue stuffing the pillow as you sew the opening close. So I hope you have enjoyed this sewing tutorial, and if you are interested in looking at more of my designs and the sewing patterns that I have, then check out this playlist right here, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!